Let's talk about some of the news. The big item today was the internet pre-sale for the first dance. AEW going to the United Center on Friday, August the 20th. And earlier today, both WrestleTix and Dave Meltzer reported this, and I was able to confirm on my end too. They have sold over 10,000 tickets. This is before Monday's pre-sale to the public, where I was told they had set aside tickets in all the different price categories for Monday. This is going to be a gigantic success, and I cannot say I would have bet the house on that when we were talking on Wednesday night, but I think that this is a huge statement when it comes to, we talk about stipulations and do fans buy into them? I'll tell you what they buy into. That's the word of AEW, that this is a savvy audience that understands if they're booking the United Center, they're not doing it for no reason. And that Darby Allin promo was as much confirmation as this audience needed that over 10,000 tickets were sold on the idea that they're getting CM Punk on August the 20th.
Certainly, yeah. There are feats attached to this company and this group of guys that just continue to really amaze me. And I felt like, yeah, this would be successful on its first opportunity, that the tickets would be sold, but I didn't think it would be this fast. Now it's really looking like it's going to be a sellout certainly by the time that public tickets get on sale. Well, we will have.
This is going to outsell the pay-per-view way.
Yeah, it's crazy. But of course, we have to see if they'll maybe adjust the stage. So at this point, they really probably should, to allow more tickets to be there, because they can certainly. It's incredible how savvy this audience is. The fact that they could just simply pick up on a few hints and realize exactly what the message is and be willing to put money down on it. Of course, we also have to question, how much of this is our scalpers. We know for All Out at this point, a lot of it is not scalpers. But
no, it's actually, the figures in the Observer, it was actually an extremely low number for that particular show.
But for Arthur Ashe, maybe that's a little bit higher. And maybe for this one, by the time, this show has come around, maybe the scalpers are paying a bit more attention. Regardless, I imagine this show will be pretty full by the time that event is there. And for a show where they haven't even announced or said the name of the person who's really slated to headline, that really is amazing.
So since this announcement, what is your thinking about the strategy here? Because I would have to think that there's a very good chance that Punk is wrestling at this pay-per-view and they don't want to do it on 4 days' notice, that this should be the debut. And maybe he's not even on TV the next week. His next appearance is that first Dynamite in Chicago on the Wednesday, going into the pay-per-view. I mean, you could bring him back the next week if you need to, but I would think if he's wrestling on the pay-per-view, they want to have a couple of weeks, at least 2.5 weeks to promote it. Or two plus weeks, I should say. It's 16 days in between.
It honestly is such a crazy move when you really think about it. The fact that they're already running 3 other shows in the market heading up to that point. And then
this will help those other ones too, Way. I think those will be interesting shows to watch, the Dynamite and Rampage, because they are not sold out. How much this is going to impact those shows.
People are already interested in going to those shows. When you add CM Punk to that roster, I think he has to appear. First of all, the buzz coming off of him being on a Rampage, he's going to make an appearance on Dynamite after that. That's still probably going to be your biggest audience. He needs to be there to promote whatever match he's going to have, likely Darby Allin at All Out. As long as you save the in-ring confrontation for All Out, I think, everybody will still be very satisfied. And of course, they also have to, fulfill whatever ratings goals that they need to as well.
Yeah, that Dynamite that follows Rampage is in Milwaukee, so you're talking adjacent to Chicago, essentially. That's where Punk he was living at when he was there at Rufus Sport. I don't know if he still has a place in Milwaukee or not, but that's that would be the Dynamite that follows. Also, what we should talk about, this was again reported in the Observer, is that the plan is no longer for Kenny Omega and Hangman Page at the pay-per-view, and I think you have to look at the idea here of, okay, if Hangman Page is your destination and he's the guy that should beat Kenny Omega, are they looking at this that Kenny Omega is the biggest opponent for Punk? He is a potential opponent for Danielson. Is that more valuable that we keep the title on him and Hangman remains the elusive challenger. But I will say, like, this, I do think like there's a moderate risk to this of kind of just putting Hangman Page aside as all of this other stuff is happening.
Yeah, I think so too. I certainly. And for me, it's like I wait to see what the actual unfolding of the story will be on TV before I kind of take any sort of like, as much as I trust like, reporters out there, I I wait to see what they'll do here because from the watching of the TV, Hangman Page is still very much the hottest guy in that company right now. Maybe discounting Punk. By the time Punk actually gets into the company, yeah. But Hangman Page at this point is an AEW original that they have built up themselves, and I do not think Tony Khan is going to let that go lightly.
No, he has to be handled with care in this whole thing because I mean that was the you saw the quarters that Brandon had, like that was the peak of the show, was that 5-on-5, the conclusion of it.
Yeah.
And it's been the hottest thing at all the TVs. Like this is a super over program that, I mean, yes, you are sitting on a powder keg of options with what is coming out here. And maybe, once we look back at November, this all maps out. Like, I think Omega and Hangman is still your destination point. But, this is, we're going back multiple generations, but this was a thing with Luger, especially in like 88 was, timing is very important. You can never take a super over babyface for granted and just think that juice will always be there when you come up short to your audience. And I don't think we're there with Hangman Page. But again, this is, it's a very important character I still think needs a very significant spot at this pay-per-view if it is not with Kenny Omega.
I feel like that'll happen. And I also feel like that title match, it won't be that far away. Yeah, I think I could see them looking at this card and being like, we have a lot. We have CM Punk possibly wrestling on this show. We possibly might have Hiroshi Tanahashi taking on Jon Moxley at this show. We have way more. Do we need to cram this big moment? Will this big moment get overshadowed if we throw all that in there? Personally, I don't think you can worry about that, especially if like you're trying to make this into like your WrestleMania. It's feeling like that, John. Like the amount of things that are building up to this show, the anticipation that is building to the show, the things that are surrounding it.
This should be their pay-per-view record. If they've got Punk on this show with everything else, this should be the most purchased AEW pay-per-view in history. At a time when your audience, it's the biggest it's been since the show's launch.
I say you throw it all in there and make this like one of the best pay-per-views of all time. At the same time, you have a lot of other things to fulfill now. You have two shows that you're trying to, you have Rampage you're trying to get off the ground. You have Dynamite that you're trying to keep at above 1 million, every single week. And I'm sure they want to keep that streak up there all the way past All Out. So if they want to maybe save that match, between Kenny and Page for, let's say, a big TV event, have Hangman Page's big title win be on national TV for the biggest audience possible, that would make perfect sense as well. I just don't think at the end of this, you have Hangman Page, sitting on the sidelines. To me, he is still going to be the guy. He is still going to be the dude to beat Omega.